When the armed attacker entered Brooklyn's 36th Street subway station on a morning in April 2022, threw a smoke bomb and began shooting, MTA security officer Sarah Jones and her colleagues thought this was just a routine security issue. But when panic broke out inside the train car and 29 people were wounded, with chaos erupting in the underground tunnels and screams coming through Sarah's radio, everything changed. "Everyone's running. We've lost control," shouted Station Security Chief Mike, his breath caught between smoke and panic. But Sarah was already taking tactical position among passengers, because urban combat situations like this weren't foreign to her at all. And in the next 47 minutes underground, all of New York would learn who Sarah Jones really was. Because some people wear security uniforms, but actually have military police experience. Welcome to Hidden Legends. Before diving into this incredible underground rescue story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from today and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the like button to help us reach more viewers. Sarah Jones was a 32-year-old experienced security officer who had been working for New York MTA for 6 years. Medium height, athletic build, chestnut brown hair, always in a neat ponytail. Brooklyn's 36th Street station was her main area, and she knew every corner, every exit by heart. "Sarah is our station's guardian angel," said station manager Janet Rodriguez. "When working with her, we know even the most complex situations will be handled professionally." MTA employees found Sarah's response to emergencies remarkable. Drunk passengers, fights, medical emergencies, she handled everything with composure. "Sarah, how do you stay so calm during the highest stress situations?" her colleagues would ask. "Experience," Sarah would say quietly. "Every situation requires careful assessment and the right approach." This experience came from an 8-year Army military police career. Urban warfare, crowd control, high-risk operations. Sarah had conducted civilian protection and security operations in the world's most dangerous places. Sarah Jones's real story began 14 years ago. She joined the Army at 18. Growing up in New York's tough neighborhoods, Sarah had been interested in both security and serving the community since childhood. Urban security, crowd control, protecting people. "I want to specialize in both security and protection," she had told the Army recruitment specialist. After basic training, she attended military police school, then urban operations training. She showed exceptional performance. She caught the attention of the Special Response Team. Being a military police officer in urban warfare was the most challenging security training. City operations, civilian protection, crowd control under fire. Sarah learned to organize people and maintain security in the most difficult conditions. During her 8 years of active duty, Sarah served in various urban combat deployments, urban security operations in Iraq, base security in Afghanistan, high-risk VIP protection. Sarah's expertise was providing maximum security in urban environments. Her most critical assignments were high-threat urban operations, terrorist threats, crowd control, evacuation procedures. She completed 156 confirmed successful security operations. Sarah's Army training was a special combination: urban warfare, crowd psychology, close protection techniques. Military police training covered techniques not taught in civilian security sectors. "A military police officer must be a complete security professional," said training instructor Sergeant Thompson. "In urban combat, police officer, protector, crowd controller, integration of security provision with survival." Sarah learned this philosophy by living it. Crowd control in bombed cities, evacuation under sniper threats, civilian protection in urban combat zones. She developed alternative security strategies for every situation. The most critical training was underground operation simulations, tunnel systems, subway stations, underground facilities. Sarah learned to perform tactical assessments even in civilian metro systems. During an operation in Baghdad, she evacuated 50 civilians simultaneously in an underground tunnel network. Sarah used her urban warfare expertise to successfully complete the complex evacuation operation. After that mission, she became one of the Army's most valuable urban operations specialists. She received special training in confined space operations, closed spaces, tunnels, tactical movement underground. This training would be very useful in her work in the New York subway system. After 8 years of active duty, Sarah decided to transition careers: combat stress, desire for normal life, commitment to civilian security service. An MTA security position was a natural career progression. Sarah was particularly interested in public transportation security, crowd management, threat assessment, public safety. The MTA position was a perfect fit. When Sarah applied to MTA, she was overqualified. Urban warfare training, crowd control experience, high-stress operations background. Her Army security background provided an excellent foundation. "I've always wanted to work in community safety," Sarah had said, "to serve people in a safe transportation environment." MTA security was a perfect fit. The urban security environment felt familiar to Sarah: crowd dynamics, threat assessment, evacuation procedures. But civilian, peaceful, community service focused. When New York MTA hired her, Sarah was an exceptional security officer. Public safety excellence, composure during crises, tactical thinking expertise. But no one knew about her extraordinary urban warfare background. On Tuesday, April 12, 2022, Sarah was performing her normal MTA security duties: public safety, passenger security, platform control, routine security procedures, normal subway security officer work. At 8:15 a.m., Sarah was conducting platform security control at 36th Street Station. Rush hour congestion, normal commuter traffic, routine security procedures. "Sarah, there's a small crowd on Platform 2, said her colleague Officer Martinez in a professional tone. "I'll check it out. Probably due to a delayed train," Sarah said with professional composure. But Sarah's military police experience had taught her to read crowd patterns. She could tell the difference between normal commuter anxiety and real threat indicators. At 8:24 a.m., as the N train approached the platform, Sarah noticed something unusual. One passenger was carrying too much luggage and acting nervously. At 8:24 a.m., as the N train approached 36th Street Station, smoke began coming from inside the train. At first, everyone thought it was a technical malfunction, but then sounds began. Bang, 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 gunshots! Panic started immediately. Passengers began screaming and running. When the train stopped and doors opened, a smoke-filled car was visible from inside. "Gunshots! Active shooter!" shouted Platform Security Officer Davis. Sarah's military police training immediately kicked in. These were panic situations, mass casualty events. She had drilled this hundreds of times in the Army. "All units, active shooter protocol," Sarah said into her radio. Her voice was calm but authoritative. "Platform evacuation beginning. Wounded assessment needed." Station Security Chief Mike came running. "Sarah, what are we doing? This is huge." "Mike, you coordinate upper-level evacuation. I'll do wounded check on the platform," Sarah said. Military police mode was fully activated. When Sarah looked at the platform, she understood the seriousness of the situation. Wounded passengers were coming out of the train car, some bleeding, most in panic. Smoke had covered everything. Visibility was minimal. Her military police experience had taught her threat assessment, shooter location, escape routes, wounded prioritization. This was similar to urban operations in Iraq. Sarah made a tactical plan to herself. First, wounded evacuation, then shooter containment, finally, first responder coordination. Something changed inside her at that moment. She was no longer just an MTA security officer. That combat mindset she had learned over years in urban warfare had kicked in. Mission first, people first. Sarah encountered platform manager Jessica Kim. Jessica was in panic. "Sarah, this is really bad. I called 911, but NYPD will take time to get here. What are we going to do?" "Jessica, stay calm," Sarah said. Her voice carried military police authority. "You evacuate passengers on the upper level. I'll handle the wounded below." "You alone? It's too dangerous." "I'm not alone," Sarah said calmly but determinedly. "I'm a former Army military police officer. I conducted urban combat operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. I know how to handle these types of situations." Jessica was surprised. She had never thought this calm, professional security officer had a military background. Sarah, if you really have military experience, you coordinate this situation. At 8:27 a.m., Sarah went down to the platform. Smoke was still thick, visibility minimum, but military police training had taught her to work in smoke operations. Sarah began systematically assessing wounded passengers, triage principles, first life-threatening injuries, then mobility issues, finally minor wounds. First wounded, middle-aged man shot in the leg. Sarah applied tourniquet technique, battlefield first aid from military police training. Second, wounded, elderly woman having a panic attack. Sarah's voice was calming and authoritative. "Ma'am, you're safe now. I'm going to get you out." Third, wounded, young mother with baby suffering from smoke inhalation. Sarah gave immediate evacuation priority. There were a total of 29 wounded on the platform. Sarah systematically triaged them all and coordinated evacuation. "Emergency, this is platform commander," Sarah said into the radio. 29 wounded, various severity levels. Need street-level coordination for ambulance access. Sarah's most critical decision was assessing whether the shooter was still a threat. Information visible from surveillance cameras. Shooter had left with the train. No immediate threat on platform. "All units, shooter fled with northbound train. Platform securing for wounded evacuation," Sarah radioed. A few hours later, they would learn that attacker Frank James had managed to escape, but NYPD had launched a citywide manhunt. Sarah's priority was wounded care. Shooter pursuit was others' responsibility. When NYPD units began arriving, they found an organized operation. Wounded prioritized according to systematic triage, evacuation routes clear, command structure established. "Ma'am, who's coordinating this operation?" asked the responding NYPD officer. Sarah hesitated, but the situation was critical. MTA Security Officer Sarah Jones, former Army Military Police, 8 years active duty, Urban Combat Operations Specialist. "I'm coordinating wounded evacuation." The officer's expression changed. "Ma'am, continue your coordination. We'll support your operation." Sarah's military police training was in full action. She categorized wounded by severity. Critical, 8 people need immediate hospital transport. Serious, 12 people need medical attention but stable minor. 9 people, outpatient treatment sufficient. Sarah made precise handoffs to ambulance crews. For each wounded person, condition assessment, treatment provided, special needs. Paramedic, "This patient has gunshot wound to leg, tourniquet applied, stable vitals, transport priority 2, Sarah said with professional brevity. The EMS supervisor was impressed. "Ma'am, your triage is textbook perfect. Military background? Army Military Police, urban operations." Sarah was concise, mission-focused. For 3 hours, Sarah coordinated all 29 wounded getting proper medical care. When the NYPD investigation team began interviews, Sarah's coordination was fully documented. Every wounded accounted for, every decision logged, complete operational success. "Officer Jones, your response was exceptional. Can you explain your background?" asked NYPD Lieutenant Rodriguez. Sarah took a deep breath. Decision time. Army Military Police, 8 years active duty. Urban Warfare Specialist, 156 successful security operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. In civilian life, MTA Security Officer. Complete silence. The community's beloved MTA guard was actually an elite Army security specialist. Army Military Police? Urban Warfare Specialist? The lieutenant asked in amazement. Correct. Urban combat, crowd control, mass casualty events. Today's response was standard military police protocol. First responders were grateful for the professional coordination. "Officer, your leadership saved lives today." 30 hours later, when attacker Frank James was captured in Manhattan, Sarah had already returned to her normal duties, but this news relieved her. The justice system had done its job. The threat was eliminated. "Sarah, the shooter was caught," said her colleague Officer Martinez. "You made the right decision focusing on the wounded." "Good," Sarah said simply. "My job is to protect people. Police job is to catch criminals. Everyone did their job." Sarah's story isn't just about emergency coordination heroism. It's about the evolution of protective service spirit, the application of military police urban operations skills to civilian transportation. From military police to MTA security, from urban warfare operations to passenger protection, from combat missions to compassionate community service. Always protective service. Military police taught me coordination. MTA security taught me community service. The community taught me that both skills are valuable. When New York passengers see Sarah, they say, real protectors don't abandon their mission. They find new forms of service worthy of protection. Sarah's emergency coordination that day was the application of military police training to MTA security, urban warfare expertise applied in civilian emergency. I'm no longer military police, but the protective spirit never ends. Service continues, mission evolves. Passengers will understand in the future, protective service takes many forms. So I ask you, have you ever encountered MTA security officers quietly serving in your community? Those with hidden military police backgrounds who contribute silently in transportation systems? Share your experiences in the comments. Because at Hidden Legends, we believe the greatest protectors often serve at the most critical moments. If this story moved you, share it, subscribe, and to help these important veteran service stories continue. See you in the next legend. And remember, next time you see an MTA security officer, transportation worker, or public safety personnel, you might encounter security specialists with military police backgrounds. Real heroes transform their forms of service, but protective sensitivity is eternal.